This capstone brings the migration journey together. You'll design a target approach, validate key components in a sandbox tenant, and assess production readiness through risks, rollback options, governance actions, and rollout recommendations you can apply in real projects. Up to this point, you've built the pieces: AD fundamentals, Entra ID, hybrid identity, migration design, device and app modernization, and security operations. Now we connect them in a realistic capstone, turning technical knowledge into rollout decisions, controls, and production-ready recommendations. The capstone is designed to feel like a real migration engagement, not just a lab. You'll define the target state across identity, devices, applications, security, and operations, then validate key assumptions by configuring selected components in the sandbox. As you test, capture risks, dependencies, governance needs, rollback paths, and anything that could affect production readiness. The final deliverable is a migration plan leadership could actually review. Technically feasible, secure, realistic for the business, and mindful of the user experience. Let's ground the migration in a realistic organization. They still rely on on-premises Active Directory, domain-joined Windows devices, file shares, SaaS apps, and Microsoft 365. Leadership wants less AD dependency, stronger security, better remote access, and simpler device management. But legacy authentication, business-critical apps, group policy dependencies, and narrow change windows all shape the path forward. This is not a big bang cutover. The right strategy is phased, low disruption, and designed with rollback options. Before choosing a migration design, build a fact-based picture of the environment. Inventory identities, groups, OUs, privileged and service accounts, devices, and application dependencies. Validate how users authenticate today, including password hash sync, pass-through authentication, federation, legacy protocols, and MFA readiness. Review group policy, device baselines, software deployment, and compliance needs. Also look for operational gaps in logging, alerting, help desk processes, and rollback plans. Each finding should translate into impact and action, so blockers are addressed before implementation begins. The target architecture is where assessment findings become operating decisions. Choose the identity model that fits the business: cloud-only, hybrid, staged coexistence, or long-term hybrid. Define what synchronizes, which system is authoritative, how users are created, changed, and removed, how groups are governed, and how privileged access is controlled. Device strategy follows from there, moving domain-joined or hybrid devices toward Entra-join and modern management, where it makes sense. Security and operations should be built in early, including conditional access, MFA, logging, monitoring, and incident response. Identity design is where the migration becomes real for users. Select the sync engine that matches your environment. Entra Connect Sync fits more complex forests and advanced attribute rules, while Cloud Sync is lighter, simpler, and often better for distributed or lower complexity scenarios. Reduce risk by scoping carefully. Pilot users, selected organizational units, groups, and clear exclusions. Before syncing broadly, clean attributes, standardize names, prevent duplicates, and plan licensing. From day one, define how passwords, MFA, break glass accounts, and privileged access will be governed. Device migration should be treated as a user-facing transformation, not just a join state change. Inventory devices and classify them by role, operating system, location, compliance requirements, and domain dependencies. Choose a pilot group that represents real business scenarios. For each device type, decide whether domain joined, hybrid joined, or fully Entra joined is the right state. As you move forward, replace group policy with Intune profiles, baselines, compliance rules, and endpoint protection. Keep the user experience central, preserve data, install apps predictably, communicate support paths, and keep rollback options ready. Application migration starts with a real portfolio, not just a list of URLs. Group each app by type: Microsoft 365, SaaS, modern or legacy web, thick client, file share, or domain-dependent service. Map how users authenticate, such as SAML, OIDZ, OAuth, Kerberos, LDAP, NTLM, Basic Auth, or integrated Windows authentication. That mapping points to the likely migration path. Prioritize by business criticality, user volume, security risk, and readiness. Quick wins can move first, while critical or legacy-heavy apps may need SSO, conditional access, proxy, network, or modernization plans. For the capstone, think defense in depth, not one big control. Begin with identity. Require MFA and conditional access, but deploy them safely through report-only mode, a pilot group, broad enforcement, and ongoing tuning. Protect administrators separately with dedicated admin accounts, least privilege, role reviews, emergency break glass access, and privileged identity management when available. Reduce exposure by blocking legacy authentication, investigating risky sign-ins, enforcing compliant devices, and strengthening password protection. Then connect everything to monitoring through alerts, log review, escalation paths, and audit evidence. A strong migration design proves both prevention and response. Once the design is complete, move into a sandbox tenant and prove the plan safely. Prepare test users, groups, licenses, admin roles, and baseline settings. Configure synchronization with the chosen tool, or use cloud-only objects to simulate migration patterns. Pilot the selected controls, including MFA registration, conditional access in report-only mode, and clear test exclusions. Validate the real experience: device join, application access, sign-in behavior, and user prompts. Document the evidence, including screenshots, policy names, results, and any gaps that must be resolved before production. In the sandbox, work like you are running a small production pilot. Create representative personas: standard user, manager, help desk admin, and privileged admin. Apply identity controls through groups, including licenses, password settings, MFA registration, and authentication method policies. Build conditional access in a safe sequence. Use names like CA001, MFA all pilot, and keep early policies in report-only mode before enforcing them. Test device join or registration, sign-ins, compliance, app access, and support flows. Capture validation evidence so every configuration decision is backed by observable results. A migration design is only credible when it proves expected behavior. Test the core identity paths: synchronization, sign-in, MFA prompts, conditional access, device join, SSO, and denial scenarios. Include both success and failure cases, because blocking the wrong user matters just as much as allowing the right one. Capture evidence from sign-in logs, audit logs, policy results, screenshots, device state, and user feedback. Then use clear acceptance criteria to decide whether the design is pilot-ready or needs remediation before expanding further. The final migration review turns sandbox evidence into a controlled production plan. Capture the real risks, define rollback paths before changes go live, and assign governance ownership for policies, roles, and operations. Roll out in phases: pilot, measure, approve, expand. At each gate, confirm readiness, support capacity, user communication, and a safe path back. The big takeaway is that migration is not a single technical task. It is a coordinated strategy across identity, devices, apps, security, operations, and adoption. Use the sandbox to prove assumptions. Then turn the results into a professional plan with governance, monitoring, rollback, and communication. From here, refine your deliverables and move toward production readiness.